Interviews before the Marine Fisheries Commission meeting. David Sneed with the Coastal Conservation Association, Glenn Skinner with the North Carolina Fisheries Association, and Kathy Rawls with the North Carolina Division of Marine Fisheries. Today's interview is with Kathy Rawls.
Hi there, Bill Hitchcock. Welcome to the program. This is the third part of our three-part series of interviewing folks right before the North Carolina Marine Fisheries Commission quarterly meeting in Kitty Hawk. Last but not least is the director of the North Carolina Division of Marine Fisheries, Kathy Rawls. We spoke to her about what does she do there at the Marine Fisheries Commission meeting, what does she expect, and I'll just leave it at that. Let's go straight to the interview we did with Kathy Rawls with the Division of Marine Fisheries. All right, Kathy, in talking with, I never have questions in advance because I believe that if you have a list of questions, you're not really listening to the other person. You're just waiting for them to shut up so you can ask the next question. But I did have a question coming to my mind that right before I interviewed David Sneed with the CCA, and then afterwards Glenn Skinner with the North Carolina Fisheries Association. And it's a question that I hear a lot over the past years and decades in regards to the Marine Fisheries Commission meetings, the public aspect of it, the public comment aspect of it. I hear more and more that folks say, well, I'm not being heard. They're not listening to me. It doesn't matter. And I've seen folks just give up. Are the voices heard from the general public when they come to these meetings?
I think that the voices are absolutely being heard. I think the struggle is trying to figure out what is being heard and how that is actually being implemented as part of the management. And in other words, if you are giving your comments and you feel like you're not being heard, does that mean that the management does not replicate what you asked for or what your comments were? Because I think that's the piece that's not quite fair to associate. So if you go and you make comments and you say, I don't think we need to close this fishery, I don't think we need to have additional regulations, and there are additional regulations, that doesn't necessarily mean that you weren't heard. It just means that the management outcome did not match specifically what you asked for.
I want to interject. I think because in the public comment period, in case somebody's not aware of this, that you can come up, you got 3 minutes to speak your piece and you're done. No one responds to you. So you don't realize the impact you might have had. Everybody on the commission might be going, yay, or they might be going, boo, because there's no response.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that format in and of itself is really, in my mind, not where the rubber meets the road. And that is why we as a staff and me as the director always encourage fishermen and stakeholders to contact us at the division. Please give us a call, talk to our staff, go out in the field with our staff. Those are the types of things, those are the types of feedbacks to us that are also very meaningful. It doesn't just have to happen in your 3 minutes in front of the commission and the commission as well. I think most of these guys and gals are more than happy to talk to the public and to reach out to them and talk to them one-on-one is absolutely an option. Your only options are not those 3 minutes that are designed for you to be heard. There are many other opportunities to do that, and I encourage people to take advantage of those opportunities.
Well, I'd like to bring up the dovetail to that, what you just said, as I've been a publicist for international conservation organizations, among other groups, and I found things like an email works extremely well because now that person can't misconstrue because they've got it in black and white in front of them. And I've also found, just as a citizen of North Carolina, that I always get a response when I send an email. And now, if I'm saying close down the fishery because of kumquats, whatever it is, I don't know where that came from, but I'll get a response back and I know what they're thinking or what they're going to do or why I'm wrong or why I'm right.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to do it as well. And, again, for me, I enjoy talking to fishermen and I enjoy listening to and all stakeholders to what their issues are. But certainly there are some that we hear from very frequently, but for the most part, we don't. And I wish people would take more advantage of just the accessibility to our staff and being able to talk to folks about the issues that we're dealing with.
We're doing this interview on Tuesday, February 18th. It's been 12 hours, shall we say, that we found out that the Marine Fisheries Commission meeting in Kitty Hawk, scheduled for the 19th through the 21st, has been postponed, not canceled, postponed due to weather. I do have, this might be an ignorant question, which I'm good at. You're the director of the North Carolina Division of Marine Fisheries. What is your capacity with the Marine Fisheries Commission? And I'm more specifically at this quarterly meeting. What's your function?
So my function and our function as a division is just bringing the science to the commission. We also are responsible for orchestrating a lot of the public interactions, the meetings, the AC meetings, those types of things. So our job is to compile the science, draft the plans, bring those to the commission, and then their job is to take those and decide what the management actions are going to be.
Let me ask you this. If you had a magic wand and you could wave it over the process to change something with let's say with the FMP, the Fishery Management Plan process, and I'm not speaking about any particular fish, just the process in general, what would you change in the process? One of the things I hear about from folks, it takes too long. What would you change?
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with portions of that. I think the process as it was set out in the FRA is very long. It's very deliberative, because I think that was a lot of the reason that the FRA was drafted, was to bring some deliberate rulemaking and management to the process, and not a lot of willy-nilly all over the place. Fishermen stakeholders wanted some consistency in management and wanted to know how that process was going along. So I do like that part of it, but I do also believe that being able to have a process where management can respond to real-time data, and that management is also very real-time, it is a plus for the stakeholders and the resource.
Well, that leads us, transitions or dovetails us into you have what's called proclamation authority. A great example is we just had with speckled trout, spotted sea trout. I'll try to speak properly. The Cold Stun event that we haven't had one, I think, since 2018. It's been 7 years since we've had one. We had the Cold Stun event, and you, as the director, have the capability to do things on a management basis, such as close down the speckled trout fishery. By the way, does anybody else with a division have that same authority?
No, sir.
Proclamation.
No, the proclamation is passed from the commission to the director.
Okay. And so what we're talking about, one, you can act quickly to a situation, but through, like with the F&P process, we've got to go through the process, which takes time, which also includes public comment. So it's going to take time. So there's kind of like a far left and a far right. You can act immediately, I guess, during shall I call it a disaster or something that needs to be done, but the normal process is going to take a couple of years. Is there really a happy in between?
So I think there is a kind of a happy in between, and it's something that we have been working on at the division to incorporate into our plans, and that is our adaptive management strategies. We have kind of been consistently inconsistent, but we haven't quite got them dialed in like we think they should be. But it's just kind of difficult working with them. But I think those pieces are still within the process of the FMP. They're still reviewed by the public. They're still commented on, and they're adopted by the commission. And each plan, as we go through each plan, we are incorporating adaptive management. In other words, it is management that is that, and it adapts to real-time situations. The cold stun closure is absolutely that. I use proclamation authority to manage cold stuns, but that guidance is given in the plan. And the plan says that this is what the director will do in the event of a significant cold stun, or that the director will take action in the event of a significant cold stun. And that adaptive piece, I think, is what still, again, gives that review from the public and from the commission, and they adopt that. And I use my proclamation authority, which is effective in 48 hours, but it is in response to what is really included in that plan.
And one other thing I want to clarify, particularly in the interesting political environment that we're in right now, you do have limited powers. You can't just one day wake up and say, well, I've decided I want to change this. So there is a limit to your proclamation powers.
Absolutely. And that is something that, as a director, it is a powerful tool to have. And I think it is a very effective tool, but it is also a tool that you have to be very mindful of how you use it and when you use it. And those are things that we have a legal team for these reasons. And, making sure that we are within our authority that we have been given from the commission in order to do proclamations. So you won't see us issue proclamations, just to your point, just because I woke up one day and decided that there was a lot of trout dead and that I wanted to, close the fishery because of that. That's not the way that this works.
So there's no, and I'll get off the subject, but there's no political retribution like the commercial industry made me mad or the recreational industry made me mad. So I'm going to fix them. I'm going to do this. You can't do that.
No, absolutely not.
Okay. A lot of topics. By the way, with the upcoming meeting, is there anything in particular with the Marine Fisheries Commission quarterly meeting, whenever it's going to be, since it's been postponed due to weather, is there anything that you are hoping would be an outcome or you would like to be an outcome, or is pretty much things settled per se and they're just inking the deal on different fishery management plans?
So I think there are several management and action items on the agenda. The one that is in for final vote is the spotted sea trout, or speckled trout, as most of us like to call it. The spotted sea trout fishery management plan is up for final adoption from the Marine Fisheries Commission. We have been hearing from the public and some of the folks and some of the commissioners that there may be some additional discussions about the management measures that were selected as the commission's preferred management options at their last meeting, and they may be having a conversation about those as they move towards final adoption of this plan.
North Carolina is unique. I don't know of any other, I'll just call it backwater system, Pamlico Sound, Neuse River, Albemarle, all that. I don't know of any other place on the eastern seaboard that would compare. And in my mind, I'm thinking it's like the second largest estuarine area in the country. So that poses some very unique management situations. And I think, and I'm bringing this up because, again, because of the flounder closure for recreational fishermen last year, now the speckled trout are closed because of the cold stun event. They're saying, well, I'm not going to fish North Carolina anymore. I'm going to go to South Carolina. I'm going to go to Virginia. Or why doesn't North Carolina do what Virginia does or what South Carolina does? And I'm making this sound like a statement. It's really a question. It's because of the uniqueness of the environment that we have.
That absolutely plays a role. I think the other piece of this is because these other states do not have the Fisheries Reform Act, and they do not have the tools that we have in our state to manage our fisheries. And although that might lead to more restrictions, I think that does not necessarily, because these states have less restrictions, that does not necessarily mean they have better fisheries. It just means that they have different ways to manage their fisheries. And South Carolina, for instance, their legislature manages their fisheries, and all of their management goes through legislation. So it's very difficult for some of these states to manage. And I have spoken with some of the state directors about this very thing. And some of them, did indicate they wish their states had something like the FRA, where they had some guidance as to where they should be on some of these fisheries. So I think it is a balance to strike for sure.
Well, and I want to touch on something what you just said, maybe dive into it a little bit deeper. Just because, say, and I don't know off the top of my head what the limit is of trout in, say, Virginia, but let's say it's 10 per day. That doesn't necessarily mean their fishery is better. Is that correct?
Yes, I think that is correct, and I think that's what we see with some of these fisheries that we manage with our state partners. Is flounder is a great example. Our restrictions for flounder are much more restricted than some of our states to the south, which we partnered for the assessment. But the assessment indicated that flounder was overfishing throughout the southeast range, and the reductions should be applicable to all states. And I think that fishermen see the leniency in the states to our south, and it just strikes me that those states don't have the FRA, and we're required by law to end overfishing in 2 years and overfished in 10. So, or within those time periods. So I think those things are what you're missing in these other states. Doesn't mean that the other states are not overfished and overfishing. They just have different ways that they address management.
I want to jump tracks on you here. The recreational flounder fishery was shut down in 2025 because they exceeded their quota. Excuse me, 2024. It was set, the 70-30 split between commercial recreational, then it was 60-40, and eventually 50-50 allocation split, which was set for next year. But everything that I've been seeing, feeling, hearing, whatever, is that the division itself would like to have the flounder quota this year at 50-50. Am I reading the tea leaves correctly?
So just to speak to that, that was a request from the commission. So the commission at their last meeting basically indicated that they would like for the director to speak with the secretary about adjusting the schedule, the FMP schedule, which would allow more recreational access in the fishery. And so what the secretary approved was actually in Amendment 4, we would be allowed to move the sector allocation of 50-50 up 1 year. That was already coming in the adoption of Amendment 3 that the commission adopted, but this would allow a little bit more quota for the recreational fishery and a little bit more access. We have struggled with this. This is not something we have really tried to stay out of this piece of the pie because it's not about biology. It is about allocation and who gets the slice. And that really is up to the commission. And I think this is a quick, and it's not a fix, for lack of a better word, but it's not a fix. It is just a quicker adjustment than the one that was adopted in Amendment 3. I think more bang for our buck is going to be, holding our line until we can get this fishery to recover, because I think we're really splitting hairs here as we are battling over this quota, and as our stakeholders are battling over this really small piece of the pie. Because when you have a 72% reduction that you're looking at, that doesn't leave a lot of options out there.
I want to address that, and I brought it up with David Sneed with the CCA and with Glenn Skinner with the NCFA, that when that initial overall reduction of 72% came about, I didn't hear too many people squeaking, as I called it. But as soon as the allocation factor came in, the commercial got 70, the recreational got 30, then it seems like Pandora's box was opened up and all hell broke loose. So in my mind, this is not a biological issue. This is a political issue, in the sense that it's one user group against another user group, and it's not about these stocks. Am I anywhere close to being maybe correct?
I think you're absolutely spot on. This is not about the biology of the fish. It is not about the sustainability. Really, it is really about who gets what. And again, that is an allocation issue. It is a tough issue. And it really does sit in the lap of the Marine Fisheries Commission to decide, unfortunately for them, because have experienced just what all other fisheries management commissions and councils do. The allocation discussions are always the hardest.
Well, with the Marine Fisheries Commission, they're representing the three different coastal areas of North Carolina. They're also representing different user groups, whether it's a recreational fishermen, a commercial fishermen, fish houses. There's open seats and all. So you're trying to get a broad spectrum of people from along the coast of North Carolina. This is a big question, but Marine fisheries commissioners aren't just hearing somebody talk or seeing an issue and going yay or nay. They're given the science, they're given the research. What kind of time span do they have? And the reason why I'm thinking about this is I was on the bottlenose dolphin take reduction team 30 years ago. I remember getting a stack of research given to me, and about 5 minutes later asked to make a decision. But I haven't even read page one. Describe to us what happens with a marine fishery commissioner? How does he get the information? What type of time period does he have? Does he have time to ask questions, get more research? What's the process?
And I think this gets back to what we discussed earlier in the FMP process and why that process is so well laid out. It is so strategic. It is a little bit time consuming, but this is the reason why. Because you don't want people making these decisions overnight on data that they've just received. That is not what you want. So, right now, the commission at the meeting, whenever it is rescheduled, they will be considering Amendment 4. So we have a draft at Amendment 4. It was very simple to do. We did that in consultation with the Finfish Advisory Committee, serving as the FMP Advisory Committee for Southern Flounder for this particular amendment, because this just moves the allocation up 1 year. That is the only thing that this amendment is doing. But even though that still will go to the commission, they will say at their next meeting, they will approve that or not to go out for public comment. And then that is where we would be with the amendment. And so this amendment, although it is very direct and very specific to one action, it goes through the entire process. It gives people time to look at this, think about what it actually does, make comments on that, and the same for the commission as they follow this through the entire FMP process.
Speaking of process, I wanted to ask you, do you have any comment on the, God, I'm going to get in trouble, the Wildlife Resources Commission, they, about speckled trout, it's come up, they don't have proclamation authority. They've got to go through a process, and it's my understanding, I think it's May 1st before they could shut down the inland waters. Why don't they have proclamation authority? The director with the Wildlife Resources Commission.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really speak to that. And I think that I don't really know. So I can't speak to that, but I think that they have at their last meeting, I think they did agree to start temporary rulemaking for the spotted sea trout cold stone closure. It's time consuming for obvious reasons, as rulemaking is another one of those, processes that take some time and public involvement and so forth and so on. But I think they're headed in the right direction, for the resource anyway. It's just taking them a little bit of a while to get there with their process.
Do you ever pick up the phone, just informally, call the director of marine fisheries in Virginia or South Carolina, Maryland, whatever, and go, hey, what's going on with you guys? We're having a problem down here. Are you having the same kind of problem? I mean, an informal type of, coffee talk type of phone call.
Yeah, and that's not just for the directors too. I mean, we see each other quarterly at the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission meetings because we manage these fisheries together. Staff that represents the division on commissions and councils have conversations with directors and other state staff all the time. I know our spotted sea trout biologist, Lucas Penzinger, he reached out to some of the folks south of us to see if they were having any cold stuns, to talk about those issues and what responses, if any, that they were making. So we absolutely, sometimes misery loves company, and we certainly commiserate on various things. Fisheries is tough, so you have to phone your friends and work with folks up and down the coast for sure.
I call it a blood sport. Hopefully, the reference is understood. And by the way, I got to give kudos to Lucas. We did a show with him a couple of weeks ago about the Cold Stun event, and he was a delight, very informative guy. And it was, like I said, it was a delight to have on. Let me ask you this. Gloom and doom. Oh no, it's February here. As we're speaking, we got a snowstorm coming that it looks like. I mean, obviously, it just shut down the preemptive postponement of the meeting. What's a positive that us recreational fishermen for 2025 to look forward to? Give us some good news.
Yeah, and I think, I think that's one of the things that people need to continuously refer to our state, and that North Carolina is second to Florida for our recreational coastal trips. And this is a great place. You touched on it earlier. Our estuaries are, you know, they're amazing, really amazing. And I think it is just the beauty of living on the coast and being able to come from the mountains to the coast to fish in our state. It's great. And I know that the fishing might not be what it always has been, but I think people have to look around them and see the pressures that exist on the coast and on Mother Nature in general. But I think it's one of those situations where you do really have to take it, be thankful for what you have, because I think that is still a thing here in the state of North Carolina. It's a great place to come and fish. It's a great place to come and enjoy our fisheries resources. And we see people doing that from all over the world on any given year. So we're lucky in that regard.
We are. North Carolina is the number one, the coast, excuse me, the coast of North Carolina is the number one vacation destination, and it's also the number one relocation destination here in North Carolina, which leads me to something that I've asked the other two fellas, which bothers me a lot, that whenever there is a situation with stock status of inland fish, particularly, it's always pointing a finger at, well, the commercial are taking too much, recreational too much, both of you are taking too much. I never hear anything about water quality. And I realize that you're not in charge of water quality, but I don't, how is that factored in, like, say, with the Marine Fisheries Commission, when there's a problem with a stock of fish, say a speckled trout or flounder, whatever it may be that resides inland, where does water quality come into this?
And this is something that we talk about quite a bit, and water quality absolutely comes into it. And the Department of Environmental Quality, water quality is a piece of obviously what they do. We often refer back to the Coastal Habitat Protection Plan and how it involves three commissions, and that water quality is a part of that. And I think, that plan is working towards better water quality standards for SAB, for our grasses and those types of things. This is absolutely connected. And, we can ignore water quality. We can ignore habitat. We can ignore those pieces, but they are essential. And I feel like it is those pieces are the things that bring commercial and recreational fishermen together. They are just as hard to work on as fisheries regulations themselves, but they are essential to the success of our natural resources, all of them, fisheries included.
Kathy, we're running out of time. I did want to ask you on the other side of the coin. I asked you what to look forward to in 2025, and you gave a great answer. What is something we need to be aware or wary of in 2025 that if you don't do A, B is going to happen? What do we need to be cognizant of in this year?
So one of the things that I'll just remind anglers and commercial fishermen alike is that our mandatory reporting is going to kick off in December of this year. So that is something that we are constantly doing outreach on and talking to folks about. I am a true believer that better data leads to better management. This is something that is just getting the ball rolling. And it's going to be, I'll be glad when we're finally off and running with this, so we can actually see what it looks like on the other side. But mandatory reporting is coming for commercial and recreational fishermen. So please just keep in tune on that. If anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to hit up our website or call our staff, And we'll be at various outreach events between now and December trying to talk to folks about the requirements and what they need to do. And it really is a responsibility that I would like to see people embrace. We need particularly better recreational data. And the best way for us to get that, the only way for us to get that really is from the recreational fishermen. So I want people to see this as an opportunity for them to be helpful and to be, contributing to improvements in the fisheries and not really a burden. So that's the way we would like for this to kick off. And again, that'll be kicking off in December of this year.
I'm glad you brought that up. And I have found that fishermen, if they can see how they can help, they will.
I agree 100%.
Kathy, thanks a lot for talking with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Certainly would like to thank Kathy Rawls for that interview. I'd like to thank Glenn Skinner and David Sneed for the interviews they did with us before the Marine Fisheries Commission meeting came about. I gave them short notice. They responded quickly, and we're putting all of this together so you can see it before the meeting coming up on Wednesday. Don't forget to go to my Bill Hitchcock YouTube page. That not only are all of the videos stored there that we do, but also the new feature. Go to post, it says post, and that's where we have all of the surveys and polling that we're doing, such as what is the confidence level for the North Carolina Division of Marine Fisheries to manage the fisheries? The last time we checked, it wasn't too high. There's questions about gill nets, there's questions about where you fish, there's questions about what type of fish that you target, and a whole lot more. So bookmark the Bill Hitchcock YouTube page. That's the only way you're going to be able to get to this polling. To watch all of these videos. Until then, I'm Bill Hitchcock. Let's see if it's going to snow or not at Kitty Hawk this coming Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. See ya.
Post your questions, comments, and concerns here on YouTube or email them directly to Bill Hitchcock at this address.